you opened my eyes in such a huge way. It was awesome. I love it.
Oh, that's good.
And it's funny, as a friend told me to buy this book, I want to say, I don't know, 3 months ago, she's like, you got to read Neville Goddard. And I'm like, all right. And I went on Amazon, bought the book, and it just been sitting in my room. And then, you know, this mutual friend between us is like, oh, you got to check out this lady's videos. And then you were talking about Neville Goddard. And I'm like, well, I've got the book.
Wow.
And so then I reached out, and you'd mentioned what chapter or what book I should read. I think it was what the Law and the Promise.
Yeah. Have you got the book that's got a few books in it?
I've got it's called the Complete Reader.
So it's got all his books in it.
Yeah, it's got all of them.
Yeah.
So this thing is, this is a great book. So, so that's what I ended up buying, and that's what it was recommended. It's like, it's got all of his stuff. So
yeah,
that's awesome. I guess we're plugging the book too. But
yeah. Hey, look, he's dead and he lives on. He's dead and he lives on. And I think, you know, the fact that we're still talking about it, I'm sure he would, you know, be very, very endeared about that people have actually taken what he said and applying it and getting results. I mean, I can imagine that would be such an incredible thing to witness, you know, I'm sure that
leaving this legacy that he's got and how profound it's becoming, for sure. And
it's wonderful stuff.
It has. And like I said, I just literally probably about maybe a week and a half at this point, I've really been doing the imaginative stuff.
Yeah.
And already I am definitely seeing things starting to happen. And it's just, I'm not at the place where, you know, I'm manifesting. I'm not there yet. And I guess that's probably not really the best way to look at it, but needless to say, that's kind of real life, I think, for what a lot of people are going to be going through. But the one thing that I keep telling myself throughout the day, like that friend that you talked to this morning at lunch or breakfast or whatever, is I remind myself it's coming, it's happening. This stuff is all happening. And I've got things that are occurring in my life that really are evidence for the conscious mind, for me to know, yes, this is happening. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's becoming a reality that you are having. It's becoming real, is essentially. Yeah. And I'm going to work on the looking back from. I hadn't been doing that one yet. So that's a neat one.
Okay. So you just got to remember living from rather than thinking of. Yeah. And once you hear that, you kind of go, what? Like it flips your mind. We are so geared to thinking of things.
Right. And thinking forward and not necessarily being forward looking back.
I know. Because it's like you're sending your spirit forward with its eyes attached.
Right. Yes. Come on. That is
going like in those cartoons.
You got and I'm still back on the chung chung, by the way. You got all these. She's got this. People, if you don't know Agnes, you need to know her better. She's amazing.
I find, like, personally, all those weird little visuals are what get me to imagine better.
Yes.
It's, you know, and my last job was doing visual styling displays for homeware stores. So my biggest sense that is developed out of the 5 is the visual sense. And I think, well, that is what gets me to do imagining so often, because I go in there and the world that's created is so much fun. But it's that continuing to develop that skill of, okay, now I go into imagination, I use the visual. But Neville talks about controlled, vivid imagination and activating all the senses.
All senses, right.
Yeah, so over time, it's not just looking out the window of the car. It's like you say, you can feel the steering wheel, you can smell the leather, you hear the radio, and you activate all that. And that's what gets you to live from it and stop thinking of it. It's doing the senses activation as best you can.
And I don't know if it was the book or you, but it was the one where essentially he was asking someone to imagine a rose and to smell the rose. Yeah. And I was like, so I did it because, again, I'm new to the imagination, and I definitely just have to get better at doing it. It's something that I've not used a lot.
Yeah.
But I was like, close my eyes, and when I was imagining, I can do it right now. I could smell the rose.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, you can do this. You can totally do this.
Yeah, great.
But for me, it's always been audible. Like hearing has
Yeah.
always been my thing. So it's like my spiritual stuff, a lot of it's been like
Yeah.
hearing words and those kinds of things. It's just how it's come to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm having to practice more of the visual, imaginative aspects, and certainly the touch and the feel and the taste. And taste I got to work on maybe a little, but the smell, like all those things are definitely a little easier for me. But again, I think for everyone out there, like there might be certain senses that you're going to have to practice a little more.
Yeah.
And they will get better. Just practice.
Yeah.
Just practice.
But also, Dan, like if you're, I mean, it's interesting you say, because obviously being in radio, audio was your thing too. Like you can go into imagination and hear someone saying congratulations on XYZ. Yeah. So you can activate the skill that's your natural strongest one and really plug it in imagination because it's your strongest one. You know, you can obviously develop some of the others. I find taste is one I don't really use.
I definitely not done that. I mean, air in my mouth. I mean, outside of that, I don't know. Taste.
Well, me too. And I think the taste, I'm not really interested in manifesting, salted caramel ice cream. So I'm not going to be really using that one.
Right. I can drive down to the market and grab that right now.
Exactly. So. That one's not too hard.
Yeah, that one's easy.
But no, it's interesting once you get into, imagining at deeper and deeper levels, just how it starts. And I find too, like say you've got something that you're imagining that's a really big manifestation and you've manifested some small things and you think, okay, I'm going to go for something big now. And you do it over and over and over. What happens is things start to activate themselves. Like I remember once I was standing at a window and I was imagining, what I was seeing. And I would do this over and over and over. I'd open the window and I would see the panorama of what I could see. Now, I did this night after night after night. And over time, I felt the wind on my face. I heard the seagulls. Now, I didn't inject those in.
They've started to become real in your own imagination.
They injected themselves in, which was, I remember thinking, wow, that's a good idea. So I started to then, every time I went in, I'd activate that sound of seagulls. It's so, everybody knows that sound.
Yes.
And then the feel of the hot sun on your face and then the wind blowing your hair back. And I remember feeling the wind blow the little hairs on my arms because it was a little bit cool and it just made it, And so all those things were just so,
the blowing your hair back probably works a little better for you because I don't think I can quite pull off that whole.
No.
Little trickier with me on my arm. Yeah, I can pull that off. So the thing that's funny is one of the big things that I've been working on manifesting right now is my next home that I'm going to live in. And so for me, a lot of it's starting in the master bedroom and I'm working my way down to the rest of the house because I really want a bitchin' master bedroom. That just matters. Yeah. But that's the thing is when I look out the window and the view I can see from the master bedroom and like a couple chairs there, like a reading area, and imagine the furniture and the bathroom. And then I've recently gone out of the room and started walking out and got the railing and the office is the next room. And there's a bathroom, and then there's another room and then the stairs. Yeah. But it's like, it's becoming more and more real. And every time I revisit and I always start in bed, sleeping, waking up.
Yes.
And it's like it's getting easier and easier to imagine the rest of the house. And it's truly coming together. And, I'm borrowing some images from online and whatnot to help fill in some of the blanks because I don't design homes. So sometimes it's like that wouldn't work as a floor plan. But when I get a little bit better perspective, but the house is truly building itself. And I know it's, 5 months, 4 months, I don't know, a year, 5 years, I don't care. At some point, this is going to be my reality.
Yeah.
It's like I don't question it. For once, I'm 100% sure it will happen.
Yes.
On the whim.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's fun. Isn't it fun? Like it's fun.
Oh, so much. And that's the thing is I know when I'm finally getting it. Now I'm going to be, again, doing it from and looking back to when I lived in this condo that I'm in now, right?
Yes.
And I'll be like, you remember when you were working 75 hours a week just to make ends meet or, so it's a neat process. And I just try to give people like just a little courage to try and start because once you can start to realize that the thought is the cause. So like once you can start to really get a causation for what you're experiencing, I think it's like it proves itself at that point.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting about this whole process is you can never prove it to another, but you can prove it to yourself. And I think that is key, because everyone wants proof, and it's like, you can do that. I can't. I cannot prove it to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, you don't want them putting us on a pedestal or something weird too, because I'm not doing anything you can't do. I'm not special. It's just I've been practicing this a little bit longer, and I'm a little more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we're all the same.
Yeah, exactly. And you are only as good as today. You know,
True.
like even if you've done it for years, you can go back and go, okay, well, I manifested that, especially on days where you're feeling a bit shaky. It can bring back oh, that's right. If you manifested this, this, and this, that means this big thing is possible. And okay, the belief isn't strong yet, but you knew the belief wasn't strong for those other things.
Right.
So
and yet they still
you reassure yourself, and you shore up your line of energy between you and the thing. And
that's what I think is the big takeaway for anyone that's watched this video with us is it's just, especially for the ones that are more on the beginner path, it totally happens. You just have to kind of keep taking steps forward. And it might be baby steps at first. You might be tiptoeing, whatever, but it does get easier and easier.
It does.
And you see results. You will start to see things happen.
Yeah.
I call coincidence at first. Sure. I don't care.
Yeah. Yes.
But you will start to see things and you'll be like, I was just thinking about that. Wow. And it just, it's a progression. And I think truly it's belief and your confidence. I mean, I think ultimately these are really the things that we're all building up is that comfort with this process.
Well, it's like a fitness. It's a mental fitness. And people say, well, how do I get good at that? Practice. How do you but how do I more practice?
Right.
It's always the same answer.
It's like muscle memory. I mean, eventually it becomes second nature to you, and you just do it. I mean, the easy one for me, and I'm sure you can agree with this, but if I go down to the grocery store or something and I want to make sure I have a parking place, I know I can do that. I can do it all day long. I can go up and down 5 times and guarantee myself a parking place.
Yeah, and that's a good place to start. Parking spaces, cups of coffee, and green lights. Hey, have a go. You're already in the car.
Or someone buying you a cup of coffee. Let's make it even challenging for someone.
Yeah.
So you're in line in the coffee shop and the person in front of you buys you a cup of coffee just to be nice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you've just manifested a free drink, which, that's like finding $5 on the ground. Another thing that's easy to do.
Yeah.
So again, sometimes you got to stretch it a little bit, but then eventually you're like, okay, this stuff works. Now let's start getting serious about it. Let's do a relationship. Let's get a car. Let's manifest money. Money seems to be the one that everybody really tries to reach for early on.
Yeah.
And rightly so,
Yeah.
Money does come too. And I think that's part of it.
Yeah. But it's also, there's a lot, in both of those cases, the relationship and the money, I am worthy or I am unworthy lurks underneath both of those.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
If
there's a lot of emotion attached to both of those things.
Yeah.
And really they are just things, but for the most part, since so many of us have emotion attached to them, it does create a whole separate issue, if you will, or levels of complexity to manifesting that might not exist for a parking place. Because there's zero emotion attached to a parking place for me other than,
Well, and if you have to park 500 yards down the road, you don't really care that much. So.
No, I like to walk, frankly, so I usually park far
exactly.
Anyway.
So
for those that want to be right up front, there you go, have at it. They'll pull out right as you're pulling in. It's just fun. And that's the one that's fun to me is when they're literally backing out right when you're coming down the row. That's like, okay. The universe could not be it was like screaming at me saying, here's your spot. You want to prove
there it is. Yeah.
And you can question it all day long because you're going to, it's a coincidence or whatever, but ultimately
it's a good moment. It's a good moment. Yeah, it's a really good moment. I mean, I think every time I manifest something, I go, wow, that was fun. I'm on the other side of it now.
It is so much fun. It's amazing the feelings that we get even after. And I know you're supposed to feel it before, but there is that weird reciprocal, like, happy feeling after, like,
Yeah.
it totally works, and it sort of feeds itself that way too.
Yeah, and just that relief of I did that. That
Yeah.
felt good. I did that.
Right. Yeah. Neat. No, I did it. It wasn't.
Yeah.